Morning, people. It's Yophi here. Yesterday I asked a question on social media about Jesus and what he said. He said to the Pharisees on a Sabbath day, on the seventh day, he said to them that his Father, up until that time, was always working. And he too works. Now, they, of course, were offended. We'll get into that. But the question was, how could Jesus say this if in Genesis it says that God ceased from all of his work on the seventh day? How could God cease from his work and then Jesus say up until that time, several thousand years later, that God is always working? Well, I got a couple of responses, and let's talk about this. Jesus, first of all, for a little rabbit trail here, he offended the Pharisees. They were extremely offended. They persecuted him because the work that Jesus was referring to was healing. He had healed a man who had been paralyzed for decades. And the Pharisees were more concerned at the fact that it was Saturday when this happened than the fact that the man was actually healed. So Jesus then made a statement that would cause a lot of persecution. It causes the same persecution today that it caused back then. He said, "My Father is always working up until now, and I'm working." Now that doesn't just mean that they both had jobs. See, what Jesus was saying was that the same work that God does, he does. He was saying that he is like God. That's why he said, "My Father is working." He didn't just say God is working. He said, "My Father," which means that just the same way that you see God, you see me. And we're basically doing the same thing. This causes persecution because people don't like to hear that you and God are similar. People don't like to hear that. They just go along with the "there is none like him" doctrine, which is not even what people think that it is. They say that there's none like him. They're saying that all of the spiritual beings, they don't compare to God, as in they are not exactly like him. You might have some spirits that do certain things that you might think cause them to be God, but there's none exactly quite like him. He is unique. But that's what being human is about. When we are made in the image of God, we have the ability to be like God. If you only understood what God created you for, you would understand that not only is there none like God. See, what you have to understand is that there's none exactly like you. The Pharisees didn't even get this. This is what this means. When God ceased from his work, why would he cease from his work? He ceased from his work because Adam was created. Man was created. Why would God need to do anything else when you're here? That's how great you are. That's what the Sabbath meant. The Sabbath does not mean, hey, let's all not go to school and not go to work and just sit there and go to church all day. That's not what it meant. See, because you're missing the point of how important you are. You take a step back and realize how important the creation of God is. And we're not just talking about the roads or the houses or the air or the sky or the birds or the bees. We're talking about man. That's how important you are. The Pharisees missed all of this and got offended because Jesus claimed himself to be God's son. He claimed that the work that God does, I do too. So you got a large group of people talking about children of Israel. They were talking about we're children of Abraham. Well, what you don't understand, children of Abraham, is that we're children of God himself. This is why they were so offended, is because they're sons of Abraham. They're sons of Israel. He's saying that he is a son of God. This offended them. As a matter of fact, it said that they sought to kill him because he was comparing himself to God. Humans, if you live in sin and not loving your neighbor and addicted to all kinds of drugs and alcohol and hatred and all these types of things, fornication, sexual sin, you're defective. No, I don't mean that in an offensive way. It means that you are created to be so much more than this. Satan wants to deceive you into thinking that that is your lot in life. That is who you are. No, you are creator. You are a son of God. You can do something that he could never do. You could do things that no spirit that wanders this planet can ever be. You can be like God. But you have to believe in the Son of God to do it, because he's the one who made it possible. This is why the Pharisees are offended, and this is why the children of Israel are offended, and this is why people don't want to believe that Jesus Christ came in the flesh, because the spirits around that don't want you to be who God says you are, or he is rather. You have an opportunity to supersede, or you have an opportunity to be like the Pharisees and try to kill out every single Christian voice. Because like Satan, you're jealous that we could be something that you can't. So I hope that this encourages you. Don't be offended when someone's living like God. Understand that that is hope for you. Because all of us, because of Jesus Christ, can be like the Most High God and do what he does. Live the way that he lives. Work like he works. The reason that God rests is because he trusts you. Give him a reason to trust you. It's Yophi. Be encouraged. I'm out.